Yes, yeah, yeah, so that's why yes, fix our Yes, yeah, and my brother was saying, no, it's not so it's about station, so you both got to the house. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, my husband. Inside. Sounds almost. That's not. So these are some University of Canterbury lecturers. They're just coming in to do a welcome to the staff.
O pene te kura, hau te kura, whanake te kura I raro I a warua. Ko te kura nui, ko te kura roa, ko te kura natawhiti nā tū haipo. Tēnei te tira hau, tēnei hara mai nei. Ko te umurangi nā te whatu I a piti. Tuatahi, me atu ki aia, koe e te timatatanga, koe e te whakamutunga, te rongaroa, rōrea ki tōna ingoa, ake. Tuaroa, mihi atu ki a rātou kua whetūrangi tia. I tērā wiki, kua ngaro tētahi pau mai te wehenga roa, a rā ko te pipi te ai, ko Bill Anderson, no reira, moi rā, matua. Tētahi atu, kua ngaro tētahi matua ki Mōhua, Mātua Eric, no reira, moi rā I roto I te atua. Huri ki te honga ora I nei, tū te mari, ora te mari, ti hei, auriwa. Kia koutou, kua whakatau mai I a rātou, I tēnei wā, o reira angi atu te papai, te putapu, I tēnei rangi. Kia rātou, kua tai ki te tū ki te kōrero, kia koutou katoa, he rangatahi mō a pōpō, he rangatahi mō ngā tamariki e a pōpō. Mihi atu ki ngai tuahuriri, ngai tahu, tētahi rangatira e noho ana ki te tepu tapu, ara ko Gail Gordon, mihi atu kia koe. te mana whenua. Mai, mihi mai I runga I Tauha, mihi mai I runga I kaupapa I tēnei rā. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Reira, tūrau pāria, tūrau huaiki, may the force be with you all.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Stephen Daish, taku ingoa. I'm the chair of the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan Independent Chair. I hail from Peretonga, so Hawke's Bay, Wish, Ngāti Taranunu territory, and everyone here. So welcome to the panels. We'll end up on the live. You want to say something?
No, so just thank you very much for the welcome. It's really appreciated, and we're really looking forward to hearing everything from the youth councils today. So thank you very much for the welcome, and now we're going to treat you to our waiata that we've just decided we're going to. I'm not great at the singing and dancing. It's no way.
Talof lava malo le leini sepul manaka. Yeah, welcome to our Greater Christchurch 2050 Youth Hearings panel today. Super excited, and what an amazing welcome. And I think it's testament of the space that we have the privilege to share at the university and as for young people. I think our guests have to head off to class. So have fun at class today on a beautiful Saturday. Thanks a lot. Awesome. So I guess, as you can tell, I think today, even though we have a set plan, I think you go with the flow. And I think our young people are adaptable, and we can, adapt to change and adapt to the schedule. So if that all works for everyone, sounds good. Awesome. But I guess just lift the energy a little bit, and loosen up, because as important as these discussions are and this hearings panel, it's all about our young people and making sure that they feel comfortable and they feel safe in these spaces that we have today. So I guess for everyone, something we do in Samoa usually to get warmed up or just to loosen up. And so basically, when I say me, everyone puts their hands together. Me, when I say patia, you go one clap, patia. That sounded like 5 claps on the panel. So patia. Hearing we can, cut them some slack that had a pretty long few weeks with the hearing stand. So patia. Nice. And then little patia, 2 claps, little patia. Nice. And when I say hey, you go oh hey. Oh. Hey.
Oh.
Awesome. And then my favorite one is when I say tangi mele taika, you give me the loudest roar. Tangi mele taika. Oh, I mean, I know it's a Saturday, but we gotta bring the tangi mele taika. All right, let's put it together. Patia, lo pati, hey.
Oh.
It's not the letter O, it's ho. We're going into the Christmas, ho. So hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh.
Awesome. So my name is Okirano Tulea. And I have the privilege of being your MC and facilitating the hearings panel for today. Just a little bit about me. I'm in my 4th year of study here at the University of Canterbury, and hoping to, fingers crossed, finish up next year. But yeah, I guess today we'll be hearing from a few of our youth councils, as well as from a few of our high schools. From around this area, which is super exciting. And I think for us, for myself, for our decision makers, and for our staff, today is all about our young people. Hearing from them, holding space for them. And I guess for me, I think when our young people come up here, it can be quite daunting. It can be quite intimidating, standing in front of a group of adults, a group of decision makers. But I guess some advice for me for our young people today is, when you stand up here, you're not standing alone. You're standing on the shoulders of giants. You're standing with your parents, with your ancestors, right behind you, supporting you all the way. So yeah, I hope that helps you as you come up here and as you present your ideas, your experiences, and your feedback in regards to the spatial plan. But I guess in terms of the order today, we'll basically be hearing from some of our youth councils, and then we'll hear a bit from our panel. We'll go into lunch, and then we'll hear from our schools. That sounds good for everyone. Awesome. And then I guess before we start, I think it's important with many of our discussions and things to actually hear the context, hear the background behind why we do this, the journey that we've come from, just to set the foundations for today's hearing. So I guess I'll pass it over to Tracy.
Thanks, Oki. And just do want to at this point say a big, huge thank you to Oki and Daisy, who have been a part of this journey for a really long time. So we haven't arrived today from nowhere. We've arrived today from a whole lot of work that our predecessors have done before us to start having some visioning for how we want this place to be. But most recently, over the last 12 months, so there's been, people may have heard of Hui Hui Mai. We went out really broadly to the community. I think we had over 7,000 people come through surveys and lots of workshops, including a fantastic youth voice. that Daisy and Oki worked to really engage and hear what they wanted. So that actually was all heard to develop the plan. So that's been a really important part. So the kind of context is that plan is sitting there trying to say, well, we've got to keep visioning and going, what do we want our future to look like? And heard and took all that feedback and baked that into a draft plan to then put out and allow people to play with, pull apart, add their thoughts to, so that then, and the real challenge for us is, of course, when that goes in place, what do we actually do about that and how do we actually make some of that a reality? So, but today is feeding into this panel who have got unenviable or enviable task to sit and consider that strategic plan on our community's behalf and really genuinely listen to all the submitters that have put in writing and have appeared and who've made that amazing effort to feed into it. So that's the process that it sits within. And again, we're looking out to 2050, but also well beyond. We all know that, you know, we've got to be thinking, you know, hundreds of years in the future. So this is trying to set us up for that. So just really appreciate everybody's time and really look forward to hearing what we're going to do today. So thanks, everyone.
So for our first presentation, we'll be hearing from our Selwyn Youth Council. So with the presentations, our young people get around about 15 minutes, and it's up to them if they want to use the whole 15 minutes. And at the conclusion of their presentation, I think the panel will look to ask a question or two to them about what they're sharing.
Okay, I think it'd be quite nice to say hello from the panel before we get underway. So just a very quick introduction from us. As I said, my name is Stephen Daish. I'm based in Hawke's Bay. I have to say that it is an enviable job for us to hear and decide and make recommendations about the spatial plan. I'm a regional planning degree from Massey. This has to be the coolest gig for anyone in my position at the moment. Christchurch is leading the way with a lot of the spatial planning, and it's just a huge honour for me to hear from the community about this plan. So my job is independent. I chair the hearings and we'll be working with the panel making decisions on the final plan. So the draft plan you had will change. It will change with respect to input that coming from all sorts of submitters. And this youth voice, I'm just in awe of what the Greater Christchurch team and Oki and Daisy have been able to do, and in awe of all you young people who, you know, you're our future. So getting your thoughts into the plan is just so cool. So that's me. I'd like to just let Victoria introduce herself, and then we'll just go down and then we'll get underway. It's okay.
Kia ora koutou, called Victoria Henstock, whenua. I'm Victoria Henstock and I'm the Christchurch City Councillor for Papanui. I'm in my first term. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be part of this panel. I have a background in law, 20 odd years in law and 30 years in governance, so I bring an interesting perspective to this, and whilst I may not have been a planner by trade, I've certainly had experience and involvement with planning processes and involvement with the Independent Hearings Panel in 2015 and 16 when we were doing a new district plan for Christchurch. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from our submitters today, and thank you for hosting us today.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Gail Gordon te whenua. So my name's Gail Gordon. I'm the mana whenua representative on the Greater Christchurch Partnership and on this hearing panel as well. So I whakapapa to Rapaki, which is over in the peninsula, as well as a number of others around the way to Hui and as well around here. So I have been involved with governance through Ngāi Tahu for a number of years now, and through my Rūnanga I'm on a number of environmental projects, etc. So I really enjoy this sort of work, and I'm very, very much focused on that future generation. So it's really fantastic to have had these submissions come through from the youth panel, because this is about what
Christchurch will be for you. And so it is a privilege to be here. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Kia ora, ka rira hau. So I'm from Selwyn District Council. I've been on, this is my third term on council, and I've got environmental engineering and planning background, previously been in council. I am very honoured and pleased to be on this panel as well, and I am looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say today. This is my day. I'm looking forward to having a quite different perspective. But, and as the others have said, you guys, this plan is actually going out to where you guys are the ones who are going to be most affected by the decisions that we make. So it is great that you've given up your time to talk to us. Really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Yeah.
My name is Robbie Bryan. I'm a term Waimakariri District Councillor. Recently, police officer for 41 years. I share my colleagues' thoughts around the importance of listening to you guys. I said to my partner last night, we're not actually doing this for fun because I'm not going to see a hell of a lot of it. I'm going to be here. And she's great. So, yeah, but I woke up this morning not feeling well. I still don't feel well, but I really want to be here. I want to hang in as long as I possibly can. But if you see me duck out of the room occasionally, please don't think it's said done something because I take offence and things are going to go somewhere. Thank you.
My name's Grant Edge. I'm second term councillor with Environment Canterbury, representing Puki in North Canterbury. My background is in landscape architecture and urban design. I've been on urban design panels, and I've spent most of my professional career working in urban environments in New Zealand and in the UK. So I'm really pleased with where we've got to with our Greater Christchurch panel. One of the roles for Environment Canterbury councillors is to think intergenerational and how we plan for the future. So listening to you and your thoughts are really important as we sort of look beyond 10-year plans to 50 years and beyond. So thank you very much.
Awesome. And I guess as you heard, and I'd like to reiterate that we're so excited to hear from our young people. I mean, we genuinely want to hear from our young people. So yeah, I guess we'll get started. Our first presentation will be from our Selwyn Youth Council. So let's give it up for us. Thank you.
So kia ora everyone, my name is Mackenzie and I'm one of the co-chairs of the Selwyn Youth Council. This is my second year. A little bit about me, I'm 17 and I'm just finishing up year 12 at Boston College. My next year plans include going back to school for year 13, where I will be a head student. I'll hand it over to Lincoln. Unfortunately, Peter couldn't be here with us today.
Kia ora, my name is Lincoln, co-chair number 2 for Selwyn Youth Council and currently on my year 11 at Boston College.
So our main 3 considerations are transport, housing and the blue-green network. So I'll just give you a little bit of background. So the Waimakariri Selwyn covers a diverse geographic area that covers 6,420 square kilometres in central Canterbury. Our diverse boundaries include rivers, oceans and mountains. Our northern boundary is the Waimakariri River. Some areas border the Whenua district. Our eastern border includes Christchurch, Banks Peninsula and the South Pacific Ocean. Our southern boundary is the Rakaia River. Beyond the Rakaia River lies the Ashburton District. And our western boundary is the main divide of the Selwyn Alps at Arthur's Pass. The 2023 population of Waimakariri is approximately 83,700, with more than 30,450 residing in Rolleston. Rolleston's population is comparable to Timaru. Selwyn's population is expected to grow to 1,664 by 2034. Selwyn has a younger than average population when compared with the New Zealand average. Projections for rangatahi in the next 15 years is that by 2038, Rolleston will have experienced a 64% increase in rangatahi. This is significant compared to the growth for the district of 33% and the national growth of 18%.
So with those stats in mind, imagine living in Darfield and wanting to get to work in town at 9 a.m, which would naturally finish at 5 to 5:30 p.m. Oh, but wait, you weren't at the bus stop at 7 a.m. And even if you had been, you can't get home because the only service was at 4:37 p.m. interdistrict. Transport is an essential consideration for us, especially being so spaced out. We support bus services being leveled up to connecting districts. Inter-district connectivity is important for you to be able to move around. More priority of transport system to be for Rolleston, Lincoln, and Purpleton. We need public transport to be efficient, reliable, frequent, and cheap enough to make it appealing. We support mode shift, growing the share of travel by public transport, cycling, and walking in our urban areas. Multimodal, public, active, walking, cycling, scooter, and private cars. This must be a safe, shared space. Safety. We need to feel safe using public transport, including at the bus stop and on the bus. There must be adequate lighting and locations of stops must be well thought out, as well as having accessibility for everyone.
Housing in Selwyn and Rolleston needs to be up, not out, but not a city skyscraper feel for Rolleston, a more gradual approach, a mix of 3 stories. Intergenerational housing is also important, with mixed housing types for different age groups, promotes connectedness. A village-like town, not a city feel for Selwyn. We must retain a rural outlook. We need to protect productivity farmland from urban infrastructure. We must have the amenities, transport, green space, access as well. The architecture of the buildings must be attractive and appealing. They also must be affordable for first home buyers and renters. It must have a family-friendly feel which will create social and community cohesion.
Greenbelt. Support the protection and enhancement of our green space area and to constrain urban sprawl. We must protect our land. It is proven that green space is good for health and well-being. Blue. Water is taonga. We must protect. We can do this by supporting buffer zones to improve water quality, biodiversity, and to support recreational opportunities. Preserve and respect our biodiversity. We can do this by having tree canopy over in our urban areas. Is important for climate change. Indigenous biodiversity and green spaces will help to increase active transport.
So this is just a summary of some of our key points. For us, the Greater Christchurch plan is all about improving our district to enable youth to get the best out of life. We thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation today and allowing us to have a space to share Selwyn youth voice. Thank you.
Thank you. For Canterbury and Lincoln, that was just awesome and really well. I like the way that you went through the themes and then gave us the, you know, the sort of the wish list of young people living in Selwyn. I thought, you know, the example of wanting to live in a beautiful place like Darfield and then coming to town, and really the only option at the moment is to jump in the car and go forward. So looking ahead, you know, that public transport multimodal shift is so important. I'm interested about the youth council itself. How does it work? Does it work with the Selwyn District Council, or is it just a school thing? Describe how it functions and what it does.
So yeah, we do work alongside the Selwyn District Council, so we are connected with them. So essentially you can have 16 people on your youth council, and they represent different wards of Selwyn. So Rolleston, Springs ward, and so we cover the whole district.
Yes.
And you have to apply, and then you're elected through that application system. So we just did our recruitment last month, so we'll have new people coming on.
Yes.
We're currently reviewing our terms of reference. At the current moment, you're only allowed to serve 2 terms, but it'll be changed to 4. And yeah, so essentially we're required to do 6 consultations throughout the year to report back to the Selwyn District Council. So that's quite often surveys and going out into the community and speaking to the youth.
Yes.
And yeah, we just recently opened our Selwyn Youth Hub, which is in the old library in Rolleston, which provides free services for people aged 12 to 24.
Yes.
So it's quite a cool project we've been working on.
Lincoln, you're year 11, so you've got hopefully a few more years in terms of the continuity of experience and working with the other younger ones coming on. That seems pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, and how young can you start on the youth council? Is it year 11 upwards, or?
You can start as low as 12, but you'll be on an apprenticeship.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see if there's any other questions on your presentation. Yeah, Grant's, Grant's got a question.
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation. Yeah, I like the way that you sort of got the key themes there. I'm particularly interested in 2 points. One mentioned transport and safety issues on and off the bus stops, lighting, those sorts of things. Are those? Do you feel safe at the moment in terms of your access walking to the bus stop or whatever? Is that being achieved at the moment, or do you think it's improvement needed?
I think there is some improvement needed. I think currently looking at it, we have 2 bus lines out in Selwyn. So we have the 5, which runs all the way to New Brighton, and we have the Lincoln bus line. But quite often the Lincoln bus line has to come through Rolleston. And you're looking at waiting 30 to 45 minutes between buses, due to there only being 1 line. And obviously some people do catch the bus quite late. A lot of our bus stops in Selwyn are just a pole with a bus stop sign. There's no seating or lighting or anything like that. So you can imagine if you're getting back at 9:30, 11 o'clock at night, you're getting off in pitch black. So yeah, I think due to how long you have to wait between buses, I think that's where the safety issue lies. I think walking to a stop is different, but yeah, waiting at the actual bus stop for 30 to 40 minutes is where I think you see those safety issues.
The second point that you mentioned was the feel of rural, living in the rural kind of aspect, if you like, retaining village character within the town centre. And you mentioned the importance of green belt, green infrastructure. Are those 2 things really quite important to how we, in terms of the trees, the greenness, and having pockets, if you like, of development that have some open space connected? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that was what we were thinking. It is quite important for us. Obviously, we understand that Rolleston is one of the largest growing towns at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of kind of quick housing being put up. But yeah, they have limited space in their backyard, which I think is appealing for some people, but also it does change the feel of Rolleston. When we surveyed a lot of people at one of our last events about this, that was something that came up quite a lot, is that they're seeing a lot of quick housing going up, but is that right for Selwyn at the current moment? Obviously, they're just trying to find housing for all the people who want to live in Rolleston, but could we change that to look different so that there is still that green space and there is still that space for people to use it for active recreation?
It's Nicole.
Thanks for coming to speak to us. Kenzie, do you want to talk more about what the services are that you got into that youth hub? You just sort of said that you got that, just to give an idea of what sort of things you've been able to.
So yeah, our youth hub provides tutahi youth, so they have social workers and a nurse who can do prescriptions. We also have family planning that runs out of there every second Monday. We also have Reframe, who runs out of there on a Wednesday after school, providing free activities. We also have there's another one that runs out there, and I'm just trying to think of. They provide learning and NCEA subjects for kids who have been removed from school to help integrate them back into school.
And the services, if they weren't coming out to see us, where would you be going to be getting those services?
Our city centre.
Yeah.
And we obviously don't have enough transport to be transporting all those youth out here. And also there was then cost included with those services for people coming out here. And yeah, youth were raising the point that they were needing the services, and also the cost with those services coming out here was not ideal for them. So
it's quite a big service.
Yeah, love to see it.
Yeah. So yeah, well, we had public transport issues, but cost. So the costs for it now, what are your thoughts on that? So it's $1. The zones have changed now. It's $1 fares for youth. Do you see, is that cost all right, do you think now, or what's your thoughts on cost of transport?
I think once again, due to only having one line, I think it depends on where you're trying to get.
Okay.
Obviously, if you are just taking the one bus straight to New Brighton or to Riccarton, like that's okay. But due to only having one line, some people have to go to Riccarton and then get on another bus. They can use their transfer ticket, but then to get back, they have to pay a different zone and then another zone. So I think if you were travelling to one direct place on the 5, you can get there at a reasonable price. But I think once you start moving between zones, it can get a bit expensive for people.
Victoria.
Thank you. Look, I'm keen to pick up on this transport issue as well. I'd like to understand the frequency of movement then for youth coming in and out of the city. So can you share with us how often would you come into the city? What sort of purposes and your friends?
Recently we found that a lot of our youth tend to go to school in town, because they just don't like the open learning type environment of Rolleston College. So I reckon about 1/4 of our youth come into town daily, but it's really busy during the weekend because they do hang out in town because Rolleston doesn't have much entertaining spaces.
So when they're coming into town for school, how are they travelling?
They travel by bus.
They travel by bus?
Yes.
And in the weekends when you're travelling in and out?
It depends. When you're going out with friends, when they go out with friends, they tend to take the bus a lot.
Is there any practice of carpooling going on at all? Is there any other sort of options that people are using when the bus doesn't suit?
I think that depends on what age group we're talking to. For me, I have a restricted license, so that obviously means I cannot take passengers. So obviously, if you cannot drive your friends, you're more likely to take the bus, meaning that you can all go together. But I think for the school, for people coming into town for school, it is a lot of buses due to the times of school starting and parents' jobs. I know I have a couple of friends who bus to Villa and they're having to get up real early to take a really early bus because otherwise they're late for school. So I think, yeah, the frequency of the bus times is not ideal for people getting to school.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. My daughter's at Villa and some of her friends are coming in from Rolleston, so I was just interested to hear that. What are your thoughts around rail and heavy rail and the use of the main trunk line? If there was a rail service coming into the city, do you think that's something that would be utilised by the youth?
I think so. We have talked about that within Youth Council, and that was something that we did ask people during our survey, and I think it would be utilised. I mean, if it was quicker than a bus, and if the price was around the same, yeah, I think people would utilise it.
And we're about to move to a cashless ticketing system for our buses. Is that something that's popular with the youth? Tap on and off sort of thing?
Yeah, I think as long as that is accessible for you to gain that card. I know myself, I've had issues with being able to get a card because I called them and they were like, you're going to have to come into the city to get a card. I was like, okay. So that then required me to take the bus into the city to pick up the card, and then I couldn't use the card on the way home because I hadn't activated it. And then I called him again to activate it, and she then discontinued my card. So I had to bus back to the city to get the card activated again. So there's 4 bus trips.
Oh, that's good.
So I think for some youth, having a card will be easier, but I think that card has to be easy for youth to gain. And it has to be a system that, yeah, it's easy for them to use and it's clear to use, because obviously some youth just have cash running around and they're like, oh, let's take the bus somewhere. So yeah, I think, yeah, the card has to be easy.
Wouldn't it be great if you could get them at dairies and at your store office or something like that?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us, because that's an absolute gem. Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you, Lincoln.
Can I just,
Yeah.
you know, maybe say that there will be more than, at the moment, more than 200 outlets that possibly dairies, other things, so they'll be easily accessible. You know, so it's coming, probably in the middle of next year.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
I know it's always a tough task to be first,
Yeah.
but I think they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
I think I'll just give the panel a few minutes to finish up their notes, as well as for our next presentation to set up. So we're going to hear from the Waimakariri Youth Council.
Just while we get it set up, so those slides are quite an important record for us, so they going to be coming into.
Yeah, I'll keep this. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Ruby Wilson. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Waimakariri Youth Council, and with me today I've got the other co-chairs at Blackfin, and I've got Oliver Kelly with us as well. Thank you so much for having us today and for making time for us to share how the draft Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan will impact Waimakariri young people. So today Oliver will be speaking to public transport network connections within Greater Christchurch. I will then talk about the importance of considered housing development, and Zach will finish by highlighting the importance of including the word accessible within priority number 6. I will now hand over to Oliver.
Kia ora. As Ruby said, I'm Oliver and I'm a member of Youth Council. Now, I think a lot of this is expanding on what Selwyn's already said, because we've had a lot of the same feedback from our youth. And firstly, we'd like to reiterate the idea of safety on the buses, especially after dark, because that's something that a lot of our youth is very uncomfortable being on buses after dark if you're with one other person or alone. And there does need to be some work done to improve that atmosphere. But we also we also have kind of one line that doesn't really run often enough. So we'd like to propose 2 kind of sub interchanges and 3 new routes. Because Zach this morning took the bus to get here from Rangiora, and it took him an hour and a half. It took me 33 minutes to drive. So as you can, like, as soon as you've got a license, it's not practical to take the buses in. So you have to come in, you have to transfer to get to UC. And a lot of our students, I know I have people who are staying home next year who live in and around Rangiora and who are studying in town. They'll have to be taking 2 buses in or a car. So firstly, we'd like to propose a smaller interchange in Belfast, because that's where the mass rapid transport will eventually, that's where that finishes. So having a small interchange there with an orbiter that goes around some of the major urban centres in Waimakariri would increase the accessibility of the bus service of people in Waimakariri to Greater Christchurch. But then we would also like to propose a smaller interchange at the airport with 3 lines. So the first one would go from Rangiora, Ravenswood, Wooding, Cartway, and then to the airport. Then there'd be a route orbiting West Melton, Rolleston, Lincoln, finishing at the airport. And then from the airport to UC, Ara, and then the Central Exchange. That would mean you could go from the furthest north of Greater Christchurch to the furthest south by taking 1 transfer, instead of going to the Central Bus Exchange, taking a detour of a fair bit of time and distance in Central Christchurch, taking up to 1 or 2 other buses to get out there. So having those 3 lines would greatly increase the accessibility of the bus service and therefore people's use of it. Yeah. Questions after?
Yeah, well, good questions after. Well, actually,
So for the Waimakariri Youth Council, we believe that any future housing development should be considered and facilitate connected communities. So when looking specifically within the context of Waimakariri, we see that future developments may encounter issues with public transport as it stands. Waimakariri is a fast-growing district. Public transport networks need to be able to service this population growth. We can't afford for transport to be an afterthought in housing development. It is also important for housing development to consider the implications on community demographics. We don't want to see just disjointed or fractured communities as a result of housing development that has not prioritised facilitating connection between people. While intensified housing may be a great solution for some issues, we don't want to see divided communities. The formation of connections happens in the general community. I will leave you with a question to think about. How can we create spaces and opportunities for more connectedness within Greater Christchurch when we consider the draft spatial plan for Greater Christchurch?
Good. That I have right side hemiplegia, so accessibility is an important topic for me. The United Nations defines accessibility as about giving equal access to everybody. In the Greater Christchurch area, accessible transport options are not seen. Accessible transport is crucial to allow for youth to access employment, education, social opportunities. It's the main reason why it is important for it to be included in Opportunity 6. In terms of people with disabilities, there should be direct mention to this in Opportunity 6. Without being able to access facilities, services in the community and in the Greater Christchurch area, persons with disabilities will never be able to be fully included in social life in the Greater Christchurch area. It is crucial that the panel has due consideration when looking at the wording of Opportunity 6. In recent wording provided to us by the Halberg Foundation, they work with 306 families across the Greater Christchurch region and the Canterbury region. This is only a snapshot of the many families that live with disabilities in the region. It is also important to remember that nearly a third of youth in the Waimakariri population is under the age of 24, and over half of those are between 10 and 24 years old. Who would make the use of the public transport the most. It is important that routes are fully accessible and have access to crucial locations such as the university and the airport. Waimakariri Youth Council believes that priority six should include the word and concept of accessibility for all. That brings our presentation to a finish. Thank you for listening today, and we invite any questions you may have for us.
Ruby, Oliver and Zach, really focused, going to the thinking about what would suit you and then people bring your things your transport needs and what might work. Because I know from experience having to take a bus or a train into a central area, then going out a different way. It's just so important. And yeah, so I've got a couple of questions just around your presentation, Oliver.
Yeah.
The reality for young people these days with the restricted licenses, and when you can actually drive and take passengers from car share, and we talked about it with the Selwyn people. What's the general? You can't really get a license until you're.
So you're 16 for learners, 16 and a half for your restricted if you take it as early as you can.
Yes.
And then 17 and a half for your full if you do defensive driving, which costs $230
Yes.
and 4 nights a week.
Yes.
And then of course you have to pay for the licensing fees.
So,
Now I live very rurally,
yes.
so I'm on my phone because my job is late enough that I need to be on it so that I can drive late enough to get
So I've
home.
got a dispensation.
Yeah. Well, no, I just made sure that I got it as soon as I could.
Yes. Yes.
But that's the case for a lot of our youth now, especially with people trying to come into UC or study or do stuff in town. It's not practical to take the buses, so we're now having to pay extra money to expedite our licenses, to do extra lessons, to do defensive driving, to be able to access the stuff that we need for our study and our work.
But the reality is, it's not until you get to year 13 or so that you've got any chance of carpooling with friends or anything like that.
Yeah.
In terms of just getting around Greater Christchurch.
Yeah.
So you're either stuck at home.
Yeah.
Or you're taking transport, you can't travel together. So that's a real barrier, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yes. Look, the other question about about public transport generally, the buses, you see there's one line at the moment, so that pretty much comes straight into the centre. That's
yes, the blue line. Now it's not practical for me to take it off, and so I might miss a couple of stops. But it's basically it goes Rangiora, Kaiapoi, and then through Belfast and Papanui to city centre.
okay.
Yes.
So anywhere in the reading time, and you might be wanting to come to UC if you're living at home. Yeah,
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Zach.
90 minutes on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, 90 minutes on the Saturday.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
that was with one interchange
Yes.
just this side of Northlands.
Yes.
Mm.
So the opportunity for you living in the northern part of Greater Christchurch is really, if you want to come in this beautiful university here or to Lincoln, living at home's going to be pretty tough and impractical. So.
But the universities, of course, see that we're living in Greater Christchurch and go, you don't need halls, because they go, you are more likely to be able to access the university without halls.
Yes.
So you lose the consideration for halls,
Mm.
but you still don't have the transport required to make up for that.
Yes. Yes. I know, that's all tied up together really nicely. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Really informative, very accurate, and very focused, which is great. Great to hear. It's good for us. You'll be pleased to know that our officers have recommended the inclusion of the word accessible in relation to some of the transport choices. So that is a message that others have raised and have been heard. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us. The thing that I'd like to talk about is actually cycleways and cycle connections and connectedness between and interconnectivity between some of the rural areas. You'll be aware that there's a fabulous new cycle corridor up the Northern Corridor, a cycleway up to Kaiapoi. I know there's lots of middle-aged men in Lightfoot that like to use it. I'm interested in knowing whether the youth are utilising that corridor and whether biking is something that your friends and family do from the regions, and what are the experiences around that space. And then the next part of that is about whether safe, connected cycleways between the regions is something that you think is important to you.
For me, especially, I can't use a normal bike, so I could use an adaptive bike with 2 wheels at the back. And you rurally on roads, it's very unsafe. Drivers will swerve last minute and you're having to guess, will this driver hit me? Will I have to bail off the bike? And the park along the Northern Corridor is great, but there's still not much consideration around other users on the paths. You're having to pull off to the side very often to create room for other people who will get impatient.
I think the other consideration to take into account with cycleways is while they are convenient in some cases it's also just not practical for someone studying in UC or Lincoln, someone like that, to have a full day of study doing something full on to then go and work a job and then have to cycle both ways back and forth. So I think for people further out towards the northern edge of Greater Christchurch, it's great for coming in on a weekend, stuff like that, but it's not likely to be used as someone's main form of transport into the city.
So what do you think about being able to take your bike on public transport? Now, whether it's rail or bus is neither here nor there, but if you could take public transport to a hub and then jump on your bike, do you think that that is something that would be picked up?
I think so.
Yeah. And I'll ask you the same question that I asked our Selwyn colleagues about the heavy rail network, because at the moment the proposal is out and there's a business case being undertaken in relation to an MRT, but it concentrates on the inner city first, as you mentioned, from Belfast right through to Hornby before it reaches out into Selwyn and Waimakariri. Any thoughts on the use of heavy rail and whether you think that would be utilised by your friends?
Definitely would be used. There's an appetite for fast, accessible transport. The buses aren't serving that currently. If you're able to get at higher speeds on the rail and increase the time that you've got in town to spend with friends and whenua, it just creates the difference for the social life of a young person.
Yeah, and rail's a bit easier to predict, of course, all the timings on because you're not relying on traffic, not holding up buses. So it's great to have a system that you know that it's going to take you the same amount of time, regardless of whether it's a Saturday morning or a Monday morning.
It's a really important point. And just to clarify, you mentioned having an interchange hub at Belfast. Does the orbiter go through Belfast?
Yes.
Yeah. And is there a direct bus then from Belfast to UC?
I don't think so.
You jumped off from Papanui, did you say?
Yeah, I had to jump off in Papanui, wait, and then jump on the orbiter going anti-clockwise to get to UC, yeah.
Thank you very much for all the articulate responses.
Yes.
Very helpful.
I've got another question for Ruby. Ruby, in terms of the type of housing and environment that you're growing up, we've had lots of submissions from developers who just want to continue the spreading out horizontally across plains. I think it's pretty affordable for them and those sort of things. What would your hope be to live in a village type environment in Rangiora? Does it mean you mentioned the 3 stories, or I think they want to be sold, but how would you like Rangiora as a place, for example, in Kaipapa would to look and feel as a young person living there?
So I live in Hogarth and I live just across the road from the Castles development that was just the report came out a couple of days ago for the development of 850 houses, and that was recommended to be turned down by our council. With that, I think youth want a balanced approach. So we don't want this spread of using all of the farm land up for development, but I think youth also have this understanding that more houses do need to be built and people need to have somewhere to live. But I think it's a balanced approach of not just focusing on doing high rise, intensified housing where we're just building up, because I think when I talked about intergenerational, that the worry was that we end up with areas of the community which are just retirement villages, and then you've got a certain age group living in these multi-story buildings, and then you've got a certain age group living in subdivisions, and you've broken the community up according to age groups. And so I think, what when I was talking about intergenerational was making sure that whatever housing development that is done, that it's still keeping the community kind of together and connected across all age groups. Yeah.
I know this, so you need to stay there because this is so interesting. I know, Grant's got.
Can I add something?
Yes, of course, yeah.
So we had a discussion, me and Oliver, in a small group discussion a couple months ago at one of our monthly meetings around the use of mixed use housing. So having houses on tops and shops on the bottom.
Yes.
We discussed the idea of villages in the UK and how they do that really well. So how can we integrate that into places like Rangiora, Rolleston, Kaipoi?
Right.
Thank you. Probably a question for Oliver, actually. You mentioned, I didn't manage to write down your proposed alternative bus routes. But I get the impression that you're wanting a better level of service, more frequent buses, and going to the right place.
Yep.
And I got the impression that where you were suggesting buses could go to get to or direct to the university, that potentially along it's picking up or it's passing other high schools or schools.
Yeah.
So that you get. Have you, as a group, ever undertaken a survey to find out how many youth in Waimakariri are travelling to schools and the university? Have you ever done that?
I think we have, Ruby know more about it. I think it's before I came into it.
A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we did a survey of Waimakariri young people to try and understand their use of public transport. I think this was around the time when ECAN had their different options to choose from. They had the consultation that went out, and so we were trying to figure out what option young people wanted, but in terms of their public transport use, I can't remember the exact figures from that, but I can get that to you if you want that data.
I think it would be useful. Did you send that information on to Environment Canterbury as a submission?
Yes, we did at the time, yeah, but I can get that to you sometime.
It's useful, because the other thing that you picked up, something that you said now, was you lose the option of gaining access to the university halls of residence.
Yes.
Because you're living in Waimakariri.
Yeah.
On the assumption that you're people to get.
Yeah, so I just applied for and been turned down for the halls of residence, partly because for most of the halls, they've had such an influx of people wanting them this year. And it's over, there were 1,200 people on the general wait list after they had put out their initial offers.
Wow.
And the reason that a lot of people from school, I know, like most of us at school didn't get in unless you applied for island apartments, because anyone who wanted catered, they just went, you're not a priority, because we will take the people who are travelling from other places, because we know that will be what will get them to come to you.
So if your public transport's not good getting here, you have to use your car. When you get here, car parking for the day, do you have to pay for that?
Yeah. So there's a fee that you can get for a student parking pass for the first academic year, basically, and you have to pay that at the start of the year.
What does that roughly cost you a week?
I think it's $500 a year. I think it's yeah.
Well,
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Look, it is fantastic. I've written down some quotes and I'm going to use in our decision because it's so articulate. Incredible. Oliver, could you guys put together your ideal bus route areas on a web plan and mark it up and send it through to the secretariat?
Absolutely. I think we've
We've already be on the submission.
The idea for the bus routes originally came from one of our co-chairs that left last year,
Yes.
who wrote up quite a well-written proposal. So we've just borrowed ideas from that.
Yeah, if that's not in your submission,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
just
we can include that. Yes.
and work with Jenny in terms of email and stuff, because we'll definitely look at that. It's really interesting. Thank you.
The one other thing we would just like to add to the discussion about the buses, you're talking about going to through the Metro cards and it being a contactless, cashless payment, is for the fact that if you're under 16, you don't have a debit card, so you can't immediately transfer money, which would require you said they were going to be in dairies, you were saying, but for a while they likely won't be. There'll be a transition period during which people from kind of 12 to 16 will really struggle to use the buses and find them accessible.
That's the whole thing, that it's a lot more accessibility from places as well as through the website, internet and things like that, at registering and stuff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think just a note from me, well, with our first two presentations, I think it's evident and quite inspiring and encouraging to see the articulation of ideas, their points, and their experiences, which I know our hearing panel and myself really appreciate. And as well as our young people being vulnerable and being open and sharing their experiences to add depth and strength to this discussions. I guess our third presentation before we go into lunch, he just loved presenting today, so he decided to go again today. I'd like to welcome Lincoln, who will share on behalf of the Rolleston.
Kia ora, my name is Lincoln. I'm supposed to be having another person, but I'll just so Rolleston College is one of the fastest growing schools in the South Island. We currently have 1,583 students, which is way over what we were supposed to have. So they're currently building another campus down the road to split junior and seniors. So Rolleston College has come up with 3 main priorities: transport, housing, and environment. And these were brought up by a group of about 20 learners who we surveyed. As you all know, Rolleston has a very weak bus system. We only have 1 bus line, the number 5 bus, and that does not go out to all the areas that we would like to go out to. It usually takes about 1 hour 30 minutes to get to Reckitt, there's no bus line that goes directly to UC, so you have to get off at Reckitt and get on another bus to go to UC, which isn't very efficient for our youth because we know there's no university in Rolleston. There's only the Lincoln University, and that's not really, that hasn't really cared for all our youth. We would like to go out to shopping centres, green spaces like Canterbury Park. We know cinema and Wigram is gaining a lot of popularity. They would like to mention other UC, as well as shopping centres like Northland and the Landing. There was discussion about the Mass Rapid Transit line. There was a bit of debate around it. People think that it may be a bit more expensive than the bus, but they would like it as long as it's affordable and accessible for all youth and suiting the budget of an average student. Learners at Rolleston College, we don't really get taught about environment much, so we were just thinking that it would be better if we were actually taught about it, so we know what we could do to prevent it. We were thinking more money would be more speakers in schools would be great, because we have a lot of speakers for some very not important things. So yeah. This could be in collaboration with our youth council or Selwyn District Council. Currently, Ralston only has one main park. It is Foster Park, and we do every sport there. And I don't think this is very efficient, because this is one of our only green spaces in Ralston, and they're all very seasonal spaces. So we see that at the end of the year or the start of the year, they're just left blank with nothing. No one's playing on it. No one's doing anything on it. Thinking maybe we could make another space like similar to Hagley Park or something like that, where people can actually hang out. Because it's not fair that Ralston has the fastest growing population and there's only one park for everyone. Yeah. Housing. So we're looking into high density housing. Realistically, this is what we may have to resort to by 2050 with the current with the amount of people attracted to Ralston. Otherwise, we'll be connected with Lincoln and all the other spaces because we've just covered all the farmland with houses. Youth are more likely to buy. We found out that youth are more likely to buy a backyard house, but we find that house prices have gone up rapidly and apartments may be cheaper for people now. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mike. That last point is really interesting because a lot of the research that we see in planning literatures, these young people are really interested in perhaps living in apartments and giving away the backyard and the lawnmower and the that sort of living. But your survey is saying that Waimakariri and Selwyn District, in terms of their future, they'd perhaps still like to have backyard and place to play and those sort of things.
Yeah, I reckon it's because that we're so used to Ralston being a very like backyard type space, like a very village type feel instead of the town city type feel.
Yes.
I think youth just like to maintain it that way.
So that's what they're used to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's sort of related to that. You obviously had your survey, but I'm wondering, is there a lack of different typologies of housing? I kind of think of some housing complexes overseas, even in New Zealand, where there's a cluster of medium density housing, but maybe a big public communal green space around the houses so that everybody can use them. And that way you're living in the green environment, but you're not having to maintain it. Is that something you think is lacking in Ralston?
Yeah, we can. Can you elaborate?
Oh, no. There are examples called medium density housing clusters where there might be a group of houses, 2-story, they might be connected or isolated, but they're on a common bit of land and they kind of look out into a green space that everybody who's living in the surrounding houses can use rather than only your own backyard. So it's not these images here. There are more sort of human scale of, people scale kind of buildings that look like your house, say, but it's just a different typology.
I think that would be appealing for some people, but I think elaborating on what Lincoln said before is a lot of us have grown up with a backyard. That's the feel of Ralston, that's the feel of Selwyn, is that being an urban community, that's just all we've known. There is no kind of apartment style living, communal kind of living in Selwyn and in Rolleston. So I think that's why it's less appealing for young people in Selwyn, is none of us have ever grown up in that environment. And I think a lot of us would just kind of want to move into something that we know, something that feels the same for us. So I think it depends on what kind of young person you were talking to. But yeah, I think it's been a consensus in Rolleston College and in the wider Selwyn that we've also talked to through the Youth Council. That answers your question.
Paul's got a question.
It's
Comments.
kind of some comments more than anything else, but thanks for presenting, and it's a good phrase and easy. It is quite similar housing typology that's going through. There has been some two-story ones in Barrington, but apparently it's not really what people are buying. Now, the park issue, so it's Foster Park. Now, there is some reasoning behind that. So to have all the sporting codes as many together, that means that like some of the events we have, that all of those different codes come in together, like Corrie games and those sorts of things. And everyone comes to the one place and can actually play for the different sports at the same place. But it is a good point that you raise about just normal recreational activity. So we do have another piece of land set aside. I'm not sure if you're aware, on corner of Levi and Wiggins Road. So you're aware of that. It's about 100 hectares of land that we're still trying to plan on what we're doing there. So I trust that you guys are going to be putting into our long-term plan that we're all looking at doing at the moment, and say what you think about it, because we're obviously needing to start to plan that. So thank you so much. But those are very good points that you raised, and yeah, I wasn't sure whether you were aware of going forward where we were at, but yeah, it just takes time to do this.
Yeah, another point that I would just add to the green spaces is on here, obviously, students said more inspired by kind of the Margaret Mackey feel, is that obviously Foster Park caters for a lot of sports and that kind of community feel of having everything together. But if you look at the lack of playground space, a lot of parents and a lot of young people have raised to us that they would like to see more kind of splash pad water play areas.
Yeah.
Obviously, Selwyn's waterways are not the greatest for being able to actually swim in. So being able to have those spaces for the summer is ideally what a lot of people want to see, as somewhere that they can actually go during those hot months.
Which is a good thing to feed through the council, and that has been brought up a few times, and that's where we're have to look at well, you know, we sort of struggle to keep up with the growth. And like we've done the pool extension, which is the one that we've recently done. So we need to be looking forward at other things. So this is where you guys coming suggesting things to us. It's brilliant. Yeah, thank you. Nice.
So that concludes the first section of our hearings panel today. I guess I'll just ask for another round of applause for all our presenters. And I'll just give an opportunity to our hearings panel to share a few words.
Thank you very much. Look, this is an exciting time for planning in New Zealand. It's an exciting time for young people who are interested in the environment, interested in communities, people who really have a big influence on your own future. Cole mentioned that investment in councils go through a 10-year investment cycle. It's called a long-term plan, and councils love talking to their community about what are the priorities for investment. And you know, the youth councils and people feeding in and coming along to talk to people like us, older folks, I don't think you should underestimate the power you have. The power of the youth voice is incredibly strong. And, you know, I just take my hat off to the whole team here for bringing this together. We will be making a recommendation to all the parties to Greater Christchurch after we've heard from all submitters on the shape of this draft plan. As I said, it will change. And an example is we've heard Zach from that still here from disability group Colin, I think his name, talking about the accessibility issue and the safety issues and the change to a wording of opportunity 6 actually. So those words matter, and because what happens with this document is once it's been approved by the council when we make our decision, it will guide all future planning documents. Like each district has a district plan which has zones and those sort of things. ECAN in terms of its transport ethics, all those agencies that work in planning have to have regard to this. It's a legal requirement. That is why getting good ideas and the right balance of direction in this document is so important. And the power of having the youth voice feeding into this. And you know, I've written down Zach, you know, there's an appetite for fast, accessible transport. You know, just a punchy one line from a young person. It's just so focused. I mentioned the focus there. So look, any of you that are interested in making a real difference in the world of environmental planning space, I know you will be thinking about careers, but I'm just saying that you know, UC's got a great course. Lincoln's got great courses, you know, engineering, climate change courses, planning courses, ecology, biology, all those sort of things. You can get into careers if you're interested in this and get into you know, places in the future that have real influence. So that's a bit of feedback from me. We do this course called Making Good Decisions. It's run by the Ministry of the Environment, trying to listen with an open mind, be unbiased, take on the submissions that come to the decision-making table. So I think even the word of that, making good decisions, that's what we're about. So that's a reflection and some encouragement to, you know, keep doing this great nahi, you know, working with your friends and peers, thinking about your futures and peers' futures. That's what I had to say with the other panel. Guys,
I just wanted to follow up on the idea of encouraging, you know, doing things now. Last year, our council voted to include 2 of our youth group on one of our key regional climate change committees, and they have equal voting rights along with all the elected councillors as well on that committee. We've met twice and they've attended, and their contribution is vital. And I'm not sure if other councils have a similar sort of arrangement, but we certainly value them. And to give the youth equal voting rights is kind of unique in New Zealand. So we're even, you know, and you have to coordinate, I think, there's that you know, mechanism between the different youth groups in Canterbury, so that you've got some common goals, common ambitions, and hearing that voice is really important.
Any other reflections, Kate? Okay, thanks. That's a bit of feedback and certainly great encouragement that you will continue with the work you guys are doing with Greater Christchurch. It's phenomenal. So,
For our young people, I just want to emphasize on what the hearing panel was saying, how much we appreciate you guys coming in today on a Saturday to share your experiences, even if it took an hour and a half to get here. It shows how much you guys care about Greater Christchurch and how much the future means to you all. And we want to continue to show our appreciation. So, before you guys leave, Daisy will have a puha for all our presenters. So make sure to go see her. But yes, we will break off for lunch now. But it's also, I think, an opportunity. I think our hearing panel would love to keep these conversations going and meet you guys and just conversate. So, they're not intimidating. Feel free to go up to them and have a chat. But yeah, I'll just say a quick kind of care, then we can break off for lunch. Sound good? Awesome. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the beautiful day you've given us to come together, to hear from our young people, to hear about their experiences, their ideas, and the things that they bring to the table. From today, we understand that our young people aren't just ready for the future, aren't just ready to be leaders of the future, but are ready to be the leaders of today. Today, and all the decisions that need to be made for our future. May you bless the foods and the hand that made them in Jesus' name. Awesome.
What time is that?